Before we start today's roundtable, I want to give special thanks to Checkster, our group sponsor. Checkster has become well known in the recruiting industry by providing a platform that easily captures reference checks in the hiring process. I myself have been a customer of theirs for years. I use a reference checking tool for all of my new hires. However, Checkster has now released a new product suite called Insights. This new product suite is really what has excited me to have Checkster as the group sponsor. With Insights, the Checkster platform now covers employees from cradle to grave and not just reference checking, starting when they apply, going to offer, through onboarding, then covering their work at your company, and then to the end with exit interviews. It's an easy to use, easy to understand way of giving and getting feedback from your peers. Checkster's simple goal: to build more productive and passionate teams. Now, if this concept of getting insights from your peers regarding your work sounds familiar, it should, because that's the simple goal of this group: connecting, communicating, collaborating. Support me, support the group. Follow the link below, recruiting.org/Checkster. This will take you to a landing page to sign up for a quick demo. If you are just thinking about automating your reference checking process, it'll be well worth your time. But I encourage you to check out the full Insights suite. I'd love to find out if you feel the way I feel about it. Now let's get to today's roundtable. All right, let's jump right into it. Thank you everybody for attending episode 51 in Let's Talk Recruiting, where peer practitioners and talent acquisition get together to talk about various topics. Today's topic, job boards, something that we all use on a daily basis, I am sure. I think everybody, maybe our true sourcers never go near one. But anyways, today's topic, job boards, where to spend your money. This is all about kind of picking and choosing your spend. I am assuming people are tracking their ROI on job boards and trying to get the most bang for their buck, whether you have a big budget or a little budget. So with us today are Diane Carrera. Am I getting that last name right?
Carija,
sorry.
Okay.
Diane out of Chicago. Jay Barrow out of the DC Baltimore area. Stephen Rosenblum, also out of Chicago. Glenn Marani, did I get that right, Glenn? Good. Out of New York City. And Stephen Risco may not be able to make it today, but if he does, we'll certainly jump right to him when he gets online. So where to spend your money? Diane, we're going to sort of jump to you and let you start off the show.
Okay, excellent. Well, thank you. Thank you so much for listening in. I'm Diane Carrija, and I lead the recruitment team for Fresenius Kabi, the North American group for them. And they make generic injectable drugs and med devices, so kind of two different sectors there. My team, we fill corporate jobs, we fill the manufacturing site jobs, and we fill R&D jobs. So we cover the gambit of all kinds of jobs. So variety. And I joined the company I manage the spend for all the boards for all the sites. And there's about 10 of them. And I started the company about 6 years ago. And at that time, we were on CareerBuilder, Glassdoor, Indeed, LinkedIn. And we were doing that for a couple of years, and then entered Google Jobs, entered online. And then I quickly became aware that everybody, they would say we partner with Google. So CareerBuilder, Glassdoor, they were all, in LinkedIn, all partnered with Google. Indeed does not. So anything I posted or sponsored, I was sponsoring jobs on CareerBuilder and Glassdoor and, LinkedIn, and it was redundant. So I realized that one, if you sponsor or spend money on one of those, it's going to be picked up by Google and you're going to be covered. So I quickly realized also that, most of these job boards, when you sponsor, when you add additional bang for your buck on them, it's a pay-per-click and it's a budget. So I also realized that managing that is really more important because you're covered. Okay, the algorithm, especially if you hook up with Google's algorithm, you're covered. So you want to, but managing that, and how you do that is you have to really know the key is how many applications does it take for you to fill that job? And you get to know that more and more. And so if I post this job and in about a week, I might have all the applicants I need to fill that job. And so then I want to take that off and put the rest of that spend on another job that's harder to fill. But that takes a lot of work and a lot of, monitoring and tracking. And if you've got recruiters everywhere, it's kind of hard. So So then what I did, so I got off of all the other ones and I just was on LinkedIn and Indeed, because Indeed is not a partner with Glassdoor, or with Google. Plus Indeed is, as you know, it's the king. They're the kings, and everybody knows Indeed. So everybody, if you're going to put your resume out, it's likely to be there. So for searching purposes, it's there. So then last year, I even took my spend down in Indeed a little bit to where there's a threshold where you have to have to keep your company page. And you kind of want to do that because the company page fuels the sponsoring that you do on LinkedIn. It kind of boosts it. So, but then I took that residual and put it into targeted ads that you can do on LinkedIn. That is really a great tool. $1,500. You can do a targeted ad on, and for instance, my problem with my company is we have no branding. Nobody knows who we are. We're a generic company. We're not a big, Pfizer, so they don't know who we are. So that's one of my problems. So I use these ads. For instance, I put in manufacturing engineer, I'm a job searcher, and what comes up is a bunch of jobs. And mine comes up because I paid for mine to come up, but they don't click on it. And they don't click on it because they don't know who I am. So then this ITA will serve up, a special ad with a little bit more video saying, hey, you're looking for this job and you didn't check out for Cindy's Covey and you should do that. So that I found extremely effective for the right job. And again, so biggest thing I learned is you got to know your audience and you got to know what the job board's audience is. Like LinkedIn, salespeople are on there, right? Marketing people are on there. You know who's where, and you've got to know that, and that really helps you maximize your spend.
Diane, when you say for the right job, you get results. What were some examples of like the right jobs that for LinkedIn?
Okay, so for instance, what makes it is how generic it is. So we tried this one, like we needed this serialization engineer, something real niche. Then this ITA really didn't work. But for manufacturing technicians in Boston, for our factory, we filled a lot of them. We filled 8 jobs out of this $1,500 ad. That was great, right? Great return. So you've got to know, and you know what? Indeed, I'll tell you what, my account rep, and I've had really great luck. Excellent service. They really work with you. I know there's companies that have a secondary company that manages all this for them. I don't have that. I can't afford that. But Indeed has really been great as for customer service. Another reason to use them, and they help you. They explain all this to you if you're new to this and you don't really understand, which I was at one time, and they just really help you. So they'll even run the numbers and say, "Oh, this title really isn't going to work. This a targeted ad $1,500 thing isn't really going to work on that title, but it does." So they kind of do some, looking through their demographics to see how many people do they have on the board that. Or how many ads maybe have they seen, in the past, so forth. They have the intel to tell you if it's going to work. So that's what kind of makes that.
Got it. So let me ask a question for like the LinkedIns and the Indeeds of the world. You know how they'll scrape for free sometimes, right? And then try and get you to become a customer. So I've had good results around just the free scraping. So it makes it like when I say free scraping, right? They take your jobs, they post it, you get applicants, you get a good set of applicants from Indeed in that way. And then they come calling, hey, let's move you to the paid model. Do we see
right?
No, this is a rumor. I don't know if it's true or not, but I do got to ask because I think it's a rumor. I don't know for sure. But if you say no to the paid postings, does your free stuff go away?
And Indeed, it used to go away for me when I used to post for free. And it got to a certain threshold and it stopped. And then, and then when I tried to create a job, it would say you have to, pay for it or whatever. So.
Well, do you have a career site? So our career site, they sweep that for free.
Yeah, I think part of it is who you're using as your ATS.
Oh,
really? Okay.
Yeah, I'll talk more about that on the free side.
Yeah, I think Indeed is worth paying for, to be blunt too, but it's like, it sure was nice to get it when it was free. Save that budget a little bit. Yeah, so let me ask you this too around the LinkedIn. So and this comes back to, hey, are you choosing the right job? I had tried that featured post before, on LinkedIn and I didn't get good results. So it's like I blew through $5,000 a budget, didn't have any real results for it.
Right.
I didn't really go back. I know they have, at the time, this was a couple of years ago, I don't know if things have changed. It was like a $10,000 entry level where you had to invest 10 grand and then you could start running that program. So I used to track not necessarily the applicants that came through, but I'd move down to the interviews, right? That was sort of my main quality. What job boards are giving me interviews versus applicants. So does anybody else have any experience around that featured post? Because in its premise, I really like. I was like, man, I'm not getting the results for my buck. Has anybody else had any experiences? Like Diane's had good experience. In addition to that, has anybody
Well, I've had good experience with Indeed, better experience on Indeed than LinkedIn. Okay. So with that feature with TA.
So I've had success with LinkedIn and Indeed and Simply Hired and some others using that featured or sponsored or promoted type level. There are advantages to doing that. Some of those are, nobody wants their job to get lost in the list. And as more companies post, if you're not a sponsored or featured type role, your job just ends up moving further and further down the list. Then it goes to the next page and then the next page. And a lot of times those featured, sponsored, or promoted jobs, one of the benefits of those is that they stay or move to the top of the algorithm, right? Sometimes they're bold. Sometimes they have a little star next to them. Maybe they come up more often in searches than those that are generically scraped and posted to those sites. So there are advantages to those for sure. My recommendation on interest to do that is if you can get a little bit of money, give it a try, right? If the result is, oh my gosh, where has this been all my life? Then you look to get more budget to be able to continue doing that.
And the one comment that I would make, and I agree with Diane, you definitely have to know your audience. Again, I recruit and lead a function in agriculture and energy. So on the salaried side, we've had strong return for LinkedIn. And then more on the hourly side, I would say a combination of salary and hourly on Indeed. But another critical piece is around the time to apply. When we rolled out LinkedIn and Indeed as kind of our go-to, our application process took, probably I'd say maybe 5 to 7 minutes, and we embedded, really a quick apply feature both in LinkedIn and Indeed. And I'm telling you, overnight we went from maybe 100 applicants to 1,000. I mean, it was something extreme. So on a monthly basis, I track from a metrics perspective. We get around 2,000 to 2,500 applicants through Indeed for our positions, and that's a combination of salaried and hourly. LinkedIn on a monthly basis is around 1,500 to 1,800 applicants. So that quick apply feature is key, I would say, to have applicants, because they don't want to spend a whole lot of time. They're kind of throwing their name in the hat, so to speak. They don't know, do we really have interest just yet? I don't want to invest 5 to 7 minutes, but I'll invest 1 to 2 minutes.
Great point. You're right on target. I've done analyses at a former employer on drop-off, and LinkedIn and Indeed. Those account execs will help you do some of that analysis to determine where are your candidates falling off. If your ATS requires them, I swear 2 companies ago, we had a 30-question application, some field roles. We had a 5% success rate on flow through from when somebody clicked I'm interested to when we actually had them finish the questionnaire. But they said, well, it's a test. If they're going to complete this, then they'd be great in the position. So I'm like, okay, fine, but you're not going to get many people to even look at or consider, because if they didn't complete the application, they didn't make it through for further interest. But Jay, to your point, people don't want to have to jump through hoops just to get in front of you. So the advantage of the quick apply or the easy apply feature is great. that certainly helps from a volume perspective. The challenge is it may impact the quality of the people coming through, but some people would rather have the masses and have the bandwidth to be able to go through those,
Right.
looking for the people who are qualified. Then I just want 5 people who are outstanding individuals versus maybe 50 people, and I have to kind of clean them up.
Right.
Hey, Jay, was that quick?
I think that depends a lot on the volume that you're doing. Just, you know, for the simple fact, for us, I'm with Rocket Mortgage, so we're very high volume. I mean, we're seeing, you know, a given recruiter could be looking at 10 to 20 leads themselves per day, and we need that volume to continue to hire at the rate that we're hiring. Is we've grown in my 8 years here from about 6,000 people to upward of 20,000 people in a short period of time. So for us, it is a volume play. But to your point about, you know, that button, it works great for that reason. But simplifying the application is super important, because today everything's done over mobile. People aren't jumping on their computers. They're not really having, I won't say the attention span, but they don't want to sit there and have to, you know, push a bunch of little dots on their screen or their phones to get, you know, their resume in front of you. So I think what's important is business evolves and more people are focused on, you know, getting more applicants. It's how can you simplify it and make it easier so people don't have to jump through those hoops or kick field goals, like you said. How can we make it easy? But how can we make sure we're getting the right people? So I think that goes more to back end and really targeting the people that you're trying to get to apply, whether that's the employers that they're working with or those skills that they have. I think that's kind of the nuance that we're looking at in a newer age of recruiting. We want to make sure we're finding the right people for jobs. We don't want to overcomplicate things on the front end because we want them to apply. So how can we market to people that have the skills that we think we're desiring for a said role?
Hey, Jay, quick question. Was the quick apply part of your ATS process, or was it embedded in the job board itself?
It's actually embedded in the job board itself. So with Indeed, it's a custom, you know, built in for Indeed as well as LinkedIn. And then of course, to be, you know, formally considered, you know, for OFCCP guidelines, the individual has to formally apply on our careers website there.
That's the only problem.
Right. So it's kind of like, you know, it's a double-edged sword. It's like pick your poison, right? I mean, in our industry, 2 of our critical roles are CDL drivers, which there's a shortage, and agriculture applicators, operating the farm equipment, which again, there's a shortage. A lot of folks have other options, employment options, so you're not seeing that mass. So we made the business decision. We'd rather have the mass. We can manage it and control it in-house and have these folks formally apply so we can have accurate, concise records if we're ever audited.
Hey, Jay, let's jump over to you and your item, but I want to make one quick point with Indeed purchasing Zap Info. And if you don't know what Zap Info, it's a tool to put data from point A to point B. Really interesting. It's going to be interesting to see what they do with that if it applies to Easy Apply. But with that said, Jay, can we jump over to you and into your item?
Yeah. So I lead, of course, the talent acquisition function. I've got 5 recruiters, 4 southern states. We're an agriculture, energy, fuel provider, products, on the farm, direct on-site services, et cetera, throughout North America. Over 20 years, leading recruiting, starting out really kind of fundamentally from a sourcer, lead recruiter, manager, director, et cetera there. The one important piece that I wanted to discuss is, how to utilize effective tools, on a shoestring budget, basically. And so, through, just through research and conversations, there is a platform that I came across maybe 2 years ago. It's called CATS. It's a Custom Applicant Tracking System. And basically what I found was I had to cut, 2 years ago, I had to cut my operational budget significantly, so I couldn't do these one-offs with an Indeed, with a LinkedIn, with a career builder, et cetera, right? That over time can get very costly. So I got connected with CATS, and the beauty behind CATS is, it is a a standalone ATS, and it has direct integration with Indeed, with Glassdoor, with Simply Hired, with ZipRecruiter, you know, and it is additional, and it's, you know, it costs me $100 a month, and I can advertise.
Wow.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Right. So do the math on that. I mean, $1,200 a year, and you could advertise all your jobs through CATS ATS with quick apply feature. You know, my CEO loved me, like, where do we sign, and how many seats can we do? And so, you know, again, I was spending, you know, 30, 40, 50, 60,000, you know, going down to $1,200, right, for the year. And we can post as many jobs as we want. It was, you know, it was, you know, night and day. So I've been using CATS consistently for the last several years, implemented an international paper in the Southern States Cooperative. And so that's been, you know, a great platform for us to utilize there. So that was one thing that I wanted to mention. But of course, you know, we have made, you know, investment with LinkedIn. You know, I definitely believe in that product from a, you know, targeted niche salaried positions, but then also, you know, effective and creative sourcing, in addition to Boolean logic with, you know, Google, et cetera, different platforms you can use there. But CATS one, I think, you know, is definitely a great tool, and it's kind of a one-stop shop, you know, and it doesn't cost you a significant amount.
So how is it just as an ATS, right?
So basically, CATS has license, right? So we have one license. I'm the administrator of it, right? And then I have 5 recruiters that I've developed as hiring managers, and they post their jobs. So CATS doesn't just go and scrub my careers website. We actually have to post those jobs through CATS, and by doing that in their dashboard, they then spider web it out to Indeed, to Glassdoor, to Simply Hired, to ZipRecruiter. It's a laundry list, to be honest with you there. That they do on their own with a quick apply feature. And so second question is, hey, how do you get the applicants? So the applicants with my recruiters, since they advertise them, all those applicants come directly to my recruiters to review, submit, and advise, an email, and then advise them to formally apply on our careers website there. Because again, they won't be considered a formal applicant until they apply through our ATS, which, you know, is an end-to-end process taking, you know, 10, 15 minutes to complete realistically there.
And do we all shy away from a recruiter that applies for the candidate? Do you know what I mean by that?
Yeah, we do. Right. Yeah. I don't want to be on the other side of that table when I'm audited, right? Yeah. And I like my freedom.
Whenever the lawyers get involved, things get complicated.
That's right.
But I used to focus a lot on sourcing, where you'd be cold calling and outbounding people, hard to find executive type people. And that became an issue because they would not go apply, but we needed to get them in to process them. So there's some interesting work going on. Let's just say that. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
So that it sounds like, so CATS is like a great secret sauce if you have a limited budget. Does anybody have an additional like little tools that are out there that are fantastic on a limited budget? It sounds like CATS is great. I've never heard of it myself. Are there any?
I don't know the pricing behind it, but we've seen a lot of really good success through using Handshake. Now, keep in mind, a lot of the roles that we're hiring for, we're, you know, seeking people that are coming right out of college, so it doesn't necessarily depend on their experience. And we have a huge internship program, but Handshake has been a great platform for us. It's very similar, very like user-friendly. It's kind of like, I want to call it LinkedIn essentially, just kind of like a more refined or modern LinkedIn. We've seen great results with it. I don't handle the budget part of like our contract with that, so I don't exactly know how expensive it is. I don't think that it's cheap, but I don't think it's expensive like LinkedIn. So it's kind of probably in the middle there, but I've seen great results with it, and they're really good to work with. Their AEs are very involved. They have a lot of customization to it, which we've kind of run into issues with other, platforms that we've used, not having the customization that we want and need and something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Stephen, thanks for mentioning that. So we are just starting to, for the company that I'm contracting for right now, we're starting to get into university recruiting as a target. And Handshake is something that I just recently, opened up an account with them, and there's different levels. So if anybody goes onto their website, it's like joinhandshake.com or handshakejoin.com, one or the other. There's different levels of membership, right? There's a basic membership that doesn't let you do a lot of things, but I am now linked with 10 select schools that I identified that are in our markets with programs that support the company that I'm contracting for. Even the universities then have to accept you in order to utilize the partnership there. But like Stephen mentioned, it's like LinkedIn for college, right? It's
you get 100 emails.
Yeah.
So you get 100 free emails per session, per semester.
So it's students and alumni. You can select which schools. There's 2,200 schools that are currently members or affiliated.
And growing.
It gets you to, and the college students and alumni that want to utilize career services in those schools use Handshake. That is their career services platform.
Right.
So again, there's the free, which I'm in right now, level, and then you can invest if you have the budget and get some more premium features that they have available.
Yeah, it's grown like wildfire. I really recommend, if you're not familiar with it, getting familiar with it, because a lot of the colleges now are directing students to start it as a freshman. So if you run any type of intern program as well, and you're looking to retain the kids from your internship programs, you can start with them from the time that they're freshmen through what's now been called rising seniors, and you can network with them along the way. It's just a really good way to stay in touch with talent and to find talent, especially if you're looking to groom kind of the talent from, their inception of the college and through to the workplace.
What I like about it is they're grabbing that candidate, they're grabbing that student and kind of getting them going into this whole process, right? And then they'll graduate to LinkedIn. But they send, my kids going to school, and they sent them an email and said, hey, get on this. So they really go after the students to get them on, which is helpful. 10
years from now, they're going to be LinkedIn's biggest competitor. So take that for what it's worth.
I figure they're going to be bought.
The new LinkedIn.
Yeah, they're definitely the leader on the college circuit for sure.
Stephen, do you want to roll into your item?
I would be happy to. So what I really want to talk about is, I kind of made a note here, and I thought I'd start out with budget. What budget? Right? If you really don't have a budget, and we talk about a limited budget, right? If your budget's like $200, how much job posting can you really get away with? So I want to talk about my favorite four-letter word, and that is free. So I want to talk about free ways to promote. We've already talked about some of those with scraping, right? There's a lot of applicant tracking systems that if you post the job on your website, then there are a lot of job boards that will scrape or pull your posting into their own system. There's a couple challenges of that. One is some of them will have a link into your applicant tracking system, which is great for OFCCP tracking, for you're being able to manage the candidates, to have that information right there, to communicate it if you have a recruiting team, all that kind of stuff. And some of them, when you apply through them in that fashion, it goes into their system. So you have to access their system in order to see people that have expressed interest there. So it can be a little bit of challenge. But what I also want to talk about is how you can get word out to job boards for free, other than scraping. Like, listen, I need to hire an inside salesperson, so I want to post it, and maybe I don't have an applicant tracking system, or I'm going to post on my applicant tracking system, but I want more than the sites that may scrape from them. So some of those include posting to professional organizations. If you're looking for niche skill sets or professions, or you're in an industry that has a professional organization, those organizations, especially if your company is a member, Many of them have job boards that some of them cost you money, but if you're a member, you may be able to post for free, or their members, that's part of their membership fee, is to have access to this job board, so they don't charge companies to post because it's only their members that have access to that. So check out professional organizations to see if they have job boards and what, if anything, they may charge. Another is schools, right? Schools, so except for the really high profile schools, their job is to educate and to get their students jobs, right, after graduation. So they want their students to get a career and land somewhere, especially, so I'll give you an example. I used to work for DeVry University, okay? Nobody pounds their chest and say, I went to DeVry University, right? The advantage of going to DeVry is awesome at giving you a dynamite education and helping you get a job, right? They talk about placement rates of their students within a certain amount of time after graduating, getting a job in their field of study. So partnering with career services at universities directly, at technical and vocational schools, and even at high schools, right? High schools have career services professionals that help their students get internships, help their students get intruships, help their students get jobs, either summer, part-time, or even after graduation. I was mentioning to Diane before our call right now, I'm on a school board here in the Chicago area. We have a great partnership with a lot of companies that recruit students from our schools. We also have great vocational education programs in our high schools on certain things, right? From nursing to engineering to culinary arts to automotive skills, that students are graduating with these skills looking for work right away. So depending on what you're looking for, you could partner with them. They will do it. It's almost to where they want to pay you to come, right? You definitely don't need to pay them. Another is the unemployment services, state, county, township, unemployment offices, right? Or career services and assistance. There's a lot of community career service offices and religious organizations and job clubs. There's a lot of ministries, churches, and the like that have career service support groups. You could find great people and post jobs there for free. My favorite thing. And the other thing is, some of this even been talked about here already, is social media, right? There's someone who's been posting on here. Facebook has certain places you could post for free, right? Get the word out. Certainly if you post a position, and I'm huge on this, if I post a position online at either a paid site or through the applicant tracking systems, I will then go to my LinkedIn or my Facebook and I'll share it with my network. And I'll also share it with other professionals, even at the company that maybe I'm recruiting for, and ask them to share it with their network. You know, I have a saying that's cast your net as wide as you can and you're bound to catch a fish. This is just some of those types of things involved in the net. We talked about scrapings, veterans, disabled organizations, and diversity organizations. They will also post your jobs for free. So, you know, if you're open to those types of individuals working in positions, or if you want to target certain kinds of people, they're great. Another is Craigslist. Back in the day, not that I'm old, but back in the day, you could post jobs on Craigslist for free all over the place, right? Then they started charging in LA and Chicago, and I'm like, what's going on? Now I don't know. Most of the places I'm posting jobs, Craigslist charges, but they charge per post. So it's not per click, right? You're not having to subscribe to, you know, a lengthy contract with them. Oftentimes for Craigslist, I want this job posted for $45. You get the posting out there for X amount of time and drive people back into your system. So one more thing I want to mention with regards to job boards. Oftentimes it's not what you say, but how you say it, right? So please, please don't post your job as a job description. Post your job as a marketing piece, right? You need to sell the job. You need to sell the organization, and to simply cut and paste a job description as your job posting really is not the best thing to do. So that's what I have to say.
All right, Stephen, you just rattled off a lot of items. Is that list in your head, or how do you manage your go-to resources? Is it just something you know? Or?
Yeah, a lot of it is just from experience. I put together a checklist, especially if you don't have a budget, then just to sit there. What you want to think about is, where are your candidates, right? We've already talked about that. Where are the candidates that you're looking for? Where would you go if you were unemployed and didn't have a bank account? Where would you go to look for a job, right? What types of sources would you utilize to find employment? And so start thinking about it from a candidate perspective, and it'll help you think about it from an employer perspective.
Yeah. And I would advise companies, I'm guessing most companies already do this in one way or another, is to have that resource or go-to list, whether it's a Google Doc or a SharePoint, about, hey, when it's this type of job, these are our external resources we can go to, whether it's contact information or what have you. I think with D&I programs starting to develop, I think you'll see a lot of that evolve into managing relationships with external D&I programs, and kind of would make sense to me to do that with the same thing with schools and job boards and what have you. So what, to the other panelists, any comments on everything that Stephen just listed? Are you utilizing those types of practices already?
Yeah, well, one more thing I wanted to mention on top of what Steve said is I've been very successful using partnering with outplacement firms or career transition companies. Locally here, I'm really in the greater Philadelphia area for the most part, but we have companies like Right Management and Lee Hecht Harrison are two transition companies. So what happens, with companies like a big company like Merck or Vanguard, when they lay off people, they give them either 3, 6, or 9 months they pay for their individuals to connect with these companies, and they connect them with career coaches, et cetera. And they have these, webinars and sessions. And I've actually conducted career transition workshops for these companies over the years. But the other great thing is they have the ability to, they want to partner with companies like us because, we're going to help their people get a job, hopefully, right? And that's their success, right? But they also have job postings where you can post, and it doesn't just go to their current members that are looking for work. It goes to all the people that have been through there. So you could build some great relationships with people, and it's at all levels. I mean, people that are, even there are some, administrative assistants that have gotten 3 months of time out of these job, placement companies, and then also, C-level executives. So you can really establish really good relationship with these people. I've helped people get jobs through these outplacement firms in the past, but it's a great way to build relationships with a lot of people, a lot of good quality people. So,
any other comments from the panelists? One thing, Glenn, before we jump over to you, is one thing I'll add is we talk about. I look at this and all this information. I always promote a CRM wherever I can. I just think a CRM works great to manage this type of external information that there's no place to put it in ATS. Maybe it goes up on your SharePoint site. But if you ever get the opportunity, and CRMs are pretty cheap too, you can even find free ones, to use that as a gathering tool for all these external relationships that you have. If you have a coordinator who wants to become a recruiter or a young recruiter growing experience, assign the management oversight to them. And then they're learning all that information by connecting with them. Just a thought. All right, Glenn, let's jump over to you and your item.
Yep. Thanks. Thanks, Sean. Real quick, just to give you a quick background on myself. So I'm currently the Director of Talent Acquisition for an IT consulting company, and we're also a software product company called Optimal Global Solutions. We're actually based in New Jersey. But what I wanted to mention is I'm pretty unique in this industry. I deal mostly in the IT sector, but I started my career working for JP Morgan for 12 years. on the IT side. The last 7 years, I was a senior project manager, and then I got outsourced and then decided to change careers and go into sales and recruiting in the IT side. So for the last 22 years or so, I've worked for several what I call IT solution provider consulting firms. And I have recruited for people internally for our organization, all levels, especially senior level type of people. I've also done staff augmentation for clients, and I've also done direct placement for clients. So I've kind of carried that all through my career. And even though I have a title as a manager or a director, I've only stopped recruiting 2 years in those 22 years. And in those 2 years, I did not like it because I kind of lost pulse with the marketplace, not speaking with less people. So I always have my hand in recruiting. What I do today is obviously I recruit for more of the difficult to find positions and more of the senior level positions in the organizations, whether it's for us or a client organization. So I just wanted to mention that. So I wanted to talk about job boards, not so much the job board uses. I will mention, though, that LinkedIn has been great for me. We focus on more of the difficult to find IT roles, mid to senior level IT roles, and LinkedIn's been great. Somebody had asked the question, what percentage of the people that you reach out to get jobs versus people that respond to postings? To be honest with you, I get a much better percentage of people that respond to postings on LinkedIn. They're more of the passive. A lot of them are more passive that respond, and I've gotten great success with that. We've used job boards in the past like Monster, Career Builder, Dice, but from an IT perspective, and when you're really looking for those quality individuals, LinkedIn's been really our best source for candidates. And that's outside of referrals. Referrals to me are the number one source. So, but what I wanted to mention real briefly, a lot of people aren't aware of this, but when you're out actually on the boards and you're looking at resumes out there, I've came up with the philosophy, and actually, based on information I've found on the internet, a lot of people, a lot of recruiters that worked for me in the past, they would go out and look at people who are currently active, that posted their resumes within the last month or so, or even less than that. And the problem with that is those people are highly exposed in the marketplace. There's a lot of companies that are courting these people. Your ability to deliver that individual goes down tremendously. So what happens in most organizations, and this was a statistic I took off the internet a couple of days ago, actually, about 1/3 of all people that are employed leave their job within around the 6-month period. So if you're out there looking at resumes, and when I have to, if it's a new demographic or a new skill set that I don't have and I don't have a pipeline of people for, I usually look at the resumes that are out there 9 months, that were posted 9 months ago or even further back, not the ones that are recent. I think the only time to get recent ones is you have to be, you have to actually have a search agent running for a certain skill set. And as soon as somebody posts, you have to be one of those first few people that contact that individual. There are really good individuals out there that just don't have good networking abilities, or don't have a good network of people that they can go to find jobs. And there are good quality people that actually post their job on job boards. So you have to catch them early in the process, because you don't want to be the 20th, 15th, or 20th recruiter that's calling this individual that just posted their resume. So the other thing I wanted to mention that I thought was, when I was doing this research, that I thought was really valuable, about 1/3 of the people of hires have claimed to have a good onboarding, a good onboarding process. 2/3 claim that they don't have a good onboarding process. So I think that's critical too, after the fact, after the hire, or during that hire, what's going to be expected of them in the first 90 days and things like that. So I think that's going to increase the longevity, obviously, of an employee in an organization. But I thought, and what I really like also, going back to the job boards, I like the concept of having those job shells. I think Dice was the first that started with this years ago, to give you before that, Monster was, okay, here's a job posting for 30 days, then you lose it. And that's one job. But having the job shells and your ability to change jobs and when you want, and change the content, that's great. And obviously LinkedIn has that. So I pay for, obviously, recruiting professional license, plus we have job postings on LinkedIn. There's no magic bullet. There's no number one answer, right? There's no right answer where you're going to get all your candidates. But it's the combination of those two that's helped me a lot from a job board perspective. So.
Glenn, let me ask you this around that timeliness in recruiting and reacting quick from a recruiter's perspective. When you're going through applicants, and this is sort of for anybody, but do you look, like let's say you're getting a good amount of applicants, right? You're choosing the right job boards, they're coming through. Are we looking at the source of those applicants to kind of help manage or prioritize our time? So Indeed applicants, not as good a quality as LinkedIn or what have you. Am I organizing my new applicants list based upon source, or does it not matter?
Not really. I don't do it that way. Yeah, I read through a lot of resumes and I'll do it very quickly. Just based on my experience, and I can identify a person, just on paper before I even speak with them, based on the companies they've worked for, their tenure at these companies and things like that. So that helps me a lot. The whole thing here is, again, I always believe in, referrals are the number one source, because good people, they want to speak and they want to, associate with good people because they learn from each other too, right? So my years when I spent at JP Morgan and the people that work for me and consultants that work for me, you could tell the people that would kind of network together and they were really, they all had like the same skill set and the same quality. And I've learned from that, being on that side of the business, which has helped me tremendously on this side. So, but I don't, to answer your question, no, in a roundabout way, no, I don't, I have to look at each individual person individually. I will say, as Stephen was mentioning, you get free, and with your ATS system, some of these systems post to free sites. I haven't gotten good people from ZipRecruiter at all. I use JobDiva today, and we get ZipRecruiter is one of the places, one of the job boards that we're affiliated with, and I get resumes all the time, and I just don't get people that are even a close match. It's kind of strange to the job site.
They just laid off pretty much everybody there too, so that could have something to do with it, unfortunately.
Yeah. So.
Oh, do they?
Glenn, happy hunting there if you're looking for people. ZipRecruiter's got a great amount of people they've just released back to the rest of our recruiters.
Yeah, Glenn, I kind of, not that it has to do with job boards, but I really like that I never really thought of that trick of looking at somebody who was out applying 6 months ago and then circling back with them in some systematic way or what have you. That's interesting, especially in the, they have a shelf life of a matter of a month or less, like a developer, IT person, they're up and they're gone really quick. To have that circle back, kind of like a drip campaign in a way. That's interesting.
We do drip marketing and we've seen some good success with it. Even more so, we're kind of an aberration to some degree because we went from a traditional ATS and using iSIMs, which I thought was very functional and it worked really well for what we were doing. I really enjoyed their platform, to using Workday, which is not an ATS, but we're using it like an ATS, which has been very cumbersome and I don't love it, but we're making it work. But the thing that was nice about Workday is we were able to tie in all the other facets of HR. So we have one main system for everything that we do, which is ultimately why we went that way. The one thing that is nice about it when it comes to keeping track of applicants of the past is if things don't work out with them at that point in time, I can set a really easy reminder in that system that links to my calendar or even notifies me through their platform. And that's something that I really like to utilize, especially now with the way we're hiring. We have people in the middle of their application process do a virtual job tryout that, manages their skills or checks their assessment of where their skills are at, which a lot of places do now. If people don't pass that, we have a 6-month window before we can reach out. And there's some people that don't pass it for whatever reason. They still might be really good people. There still might be an opportunity for them in the role. And if I really like them, that's the first thing I do is put a reminder in to go back to those people 6 months down the road. Hey, you were really good. Are you still interested in joining our company? Let's put you back in the process. And I've seen great success with that.
Yeah, I think that's part of utilizing good job boards is just don't throw away the ones you don't hire. Have like a recycle plan somehow to circle back. I know I track unreviewed rates of applicants that come in, and it's typically very high that people never even get looked at. So you don't know if they're good or not because the recruiters kind of moved with a good slate. There's like a lot of hidden gems in there to be addressed later. All right. Thank you, Glenn. Stephen, let's jump to you. Stephen Risco.
Yeah, so a little bit about me. I've been with Rocket Mortgage, Quicken Loans, going on the better part of 9 years. I have a team of about 4 people in our Arizona office. I'm a part of a bigger team, which is closer to about 60 people that focus on sales recruiting across the country. That has evolved much more so than bringing people in that we're training for a position into us bringing people in that, you know, need their licenses and we're getting them licensed. And even now we're looking for folks that are licensed to essentially help us hire more people to do mortgages because the business is really booming. We're growing like crazy right now. So we're spread very thin. Outside of sales, we're focused on a lot of technology positions. We're probably a technology first company before it gets to the mortgage. So before it gets to the mortgage side of things. So as we're out there, we're utilizing job boards. I mean, we've literally used probably everyone that I've heard mentioned here today, with the exception of Dice. I don't know about that one. But outside of that, we've used all of them. And I think a lot of the best results that we've really seen were from Indeed. Monster wasn't really producing the results that we want. So we ended up finally severing ties with them. I think this year we decided it just wasn't a place that we were going to put our money in anymore. So we really focused on those higher converting places. And for us, it's really come down to 3 of those. It's been Indeed, because like was mentioned previously by Diane, as your account executives there really hands-on and can kind of walk you through whether it's your job posting or figuring out what's going to work best for your brand and for your company. Indeed, it's just really been rock stars for us. So we've seen a lot of good stuff with them, and it's a continued partnership on our end. We've really gone all in on LinkedIn in about the last 12 to 16 months. Previously, we probably had a few recruiter seats because LinkedIn is the most expensive one, you know, to my knowledge out there if you're going to pay for. So we're kind of limited on that, but we started to see such great results, and the reply rate for our company by using LinkedIn recruiter seats was far and away better than any of the other ones that we were really using. So the access to the information and the direct access to the applicant were really good. I know we've been having a good Indeed partnership. We were still kind of limited at the information we could get from the candidate until they went through and applied. So LinkedIn just kind of got us over that hump of being able to really draw more candidates, more applicants in to help us fill our funnel. And that Handshake, as I mentioned earlier, couldn't say enough really good things about the platform there. The AEs, I mean, their whole team has really helped us grow our business a lot. When it comes down to our hiring, we have pretty big hiring goals across the board, whether that's in sales or that's in technology or that's in our operations team. We have roughly 150, 160 recruiters working that are internal recruiters that are looking for talent to help us grow the business. So it's important to be able to find an ATS, not an ATS, but you know, a system like a LinkedIn or something to provide us with what we need to get the candidates to keep the business growing. Because when you're hiring, you know, 150 to 200 people a month, you can't be waiting for people to click and apply. You have to be able to go out there and find them and you know, really jump on a good candidate. And so I want to say it was Glenn or Steven brought up being early to that candidate. You know, you want to make sure that you have the ability to be the first one to touch that person. For me, I'm in Phoenix, so I got to get up extra early to be that first guy there. Otherwise, I'm going to be the 15th person knocking on their door 3 hours later. So, I mean, I think at the end of the day, I mean, if there's 3 things that I could really take away from the systems that work best, it's going to be LinkedIn and Handshake and Indeed. It really worked the best for us in a high volume role and a technology role.
Let me ask you this around your usage of LinkedIn, right? For your jobs that you post on there. Is your team going back and resetting the date for the posted date? What we would do is I'd post it, and then every week we'd repost it if it's still open. Because if you don't repost, your applicants drop. If you repost, It goes back to the scheduling. For me, that came into timing. If I can run it for 4 weeks, keep reposting it, and then just know, okay, give another rec another turn. Are you recruiting teams?
Yeah, we're doing it almost weekly.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sean, to your point, a couple things to refresh. You know, some people sort the jobs, right, based on how new they are. So if you want to stay in the current list, right, or up near the top, to repost it is something that I'm seeing a lot of companies do in LinkedIn. Another thing about, you know, to Stephen's point, any of these job boards, you need to look at who your audience is, right? Who you're really going after. I find that the company that, I forgot to say that I'm currently in transition, doing contract work for a nationwide commercial and industrial painting and floor covering company. But in the meantime, I've worked for many different companies in many different industries with many different types and levels of roles. And sometimes the lower level roles, there are certain job boards that do really, really well for that. And then there are, LinkedIn I have found to be great when you're looking for professional level or managerial level and above, corporate type roles. LinkedIn is great for. If I'm looking for a painter, which I'm doing a lot of these days, LinkedIn doesn't find me a lot of painters, right? But Indeed finds me painters like there's no tomorrow, right? So sometimes it's the level or professional and technical niche that different job boards lend themselves to do better.
One thing I always remember about LinkedIn that they stress is their number one function isn't a job board. Their number one function is for people to get known professionally and to share leads. And so you got to keep that in mind when you're going out there, because that's really what that's built for. And then we just come in there and use it as a recruiter, as a recruiting board.
Yeah, I would add to that around the LinkedIn. If you have that, typically you have your LinkedIn recruiter account plus your jobs that you post there. If you do have that LinkedIn recruiter account with InMails, keep track of your InMail count available, right? Because they have a 90-day use it or lose it plan, last I checked, on LinkedIn. So if you've had it for more than 90 days, every month you're losing InMails. So know what your magic number is. Your account manager can tell you that, and make sure you use them instead of losing them, but not spamming so you get banned, right? That you got to have that 13% response rate, right? Before you get flagged and put in LinkedIn jail. But you don't let that money walk away and utilize it to build your pipeline or what have you, even if you don't have that job posted, but make sure you don't lose that because like Stephen was saying, it is not cheap. All right, we're almost at an hour mark. Very good conversation. Thank you everybody for hanging on. But with that said, before we take off, I'll sort of go around the circle. Any final comments or thoughts around getting the most bang for your buck? And Diane, we'll start with you.
No, I think that we covered a lot today, and I would have to agree that if you're going to spend money on the job boards, it's LinkedIn and Indeed and Handshake now for the college.
Yeah, I will add to that. When people signed up, I asked, hey, what job board are you using? It was predominantly Indeed, followed LinkedIn right behind, and then everybody else was kind of a third and fourth. So yeah, those are the two big boys on the block. And Stephen Rosenblum, last thought?
My suggestion is if you have whether you have a budget or not, try different things, try different job boards, right? And see where you get the biggest ROI. And from that, you can build a business case to, foster further relationships with those that are getting you the best results.
Excellent. And Glenn?
Yeah, real quick about LinkedIn, just to be corrected there. So, as I said, my biggest hiring comes from responses to jobs I post. And that's true because LinkedIn really isn't a recruiting tool. Like Diane mentioned, it's a network. You build your network and your pipeline that way. I don't expect when I reach out and email people, I'm not going to expect them to come back and say, oh yeah, I'm really, looking for a job. It's a longer term relationship build. And it really, once you find quality people, you got to stick with them and put them in part of your network, and
go work harder.
Yep.
And Stephen Risco.
One thing I didn't hear anybody mention too, I know a lot of people have gotten away from using Facebook, but there's a free marketplace there. So if you're looking for jobs of people that you might not find on a LinkedIn or a Handshake, for instance, Stephen brought up a painter, that's probably a really good place to look, and that's free. So
that's a great point. You don't hear Facebook come up too often these days, or what have you. I can't remember the name of the company I thought was like an earlier version of Handshake that was all about college on Facebook, and it kind of seemed to die off. It's something to do with a sprout. I want to say there's a sprout in the name or something like that. Anyways, Jay, I'll give you the final word here.
Sure. So one other thing that kind of hit my mind. So we support various manufacturing facilities, plant environments, distribution centers, and even retail locations. We've had a lot of great success with partnering with your various state employment commissions, even down by locality, in which, pre-COVID, they hosted free job fairs that we would participate and yield a lot of great talent for those work environments and hourly positions. They have virtual fairs now. And then the other aspect that I was going to mention is in our, this is kind of iconic, I would say, for historical recruiting is, leveraging your reader boards outside your facilities with we're hiring or here's, positions that we're looking to fill. That's been a great, from kind of a walk-in traffic, so to speak, for us to further communicate in the communities where we live and work that we have opportunities, and then we can direct them online, et cetera. So, Stephen had mentioned, leveraging all your channels, and I can't agree enough that I don't think there's one perfect, serum, so to speak. You kind of say, is it gold today? Is it silver? Is it bronze, et cetera, to fill those opportunities.
Excellent. Well, thank you everybody for participating. Another great conversation as we come into the weekend. So with that said, thank you everybody and enjoy the upcoming weekend, and we'll talk to everybody soon. Thank you very much.
That's great.
Take care, everybody.
Thanks very much for having this.